Dun, da, dun, da, 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 da. Now the Star Wars story of an anthology movie that lost two directors and the TV son who had no choice but to keep it all together. It's the Solo A Star Wars Story Watch Along! Smile! That's the word!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Everything Sequel Podcast's watch along of Solo, A Star Wars Story.
There's so much grammar in these watch alongs.
I'm telling you.
I mean, literally when I type out the descriptions and the events and I upload it, I can't see the fucking title by the time by the time I'm done. There's so many colons. By the time you've added watch along, there's
a lot going on.
That's like 50 characters.
All right, we're watching Solo, Tom.
We are. Well, we're watching Solo together.
Correct.
We're watching Solo a duo.
And here's the essential question: where do you stand on? Because, okay, for listeners of the podcast and these watch-alongs, they probably know the rules to the watch-alongs now. Do you want to remind them first?
Yeah. So we're
new.
We release these watch-alongs on the anniversary of the movie's release date, which for this movie is very important. It's May 12th, and I'll talk a little bit about that later. It's generally a movie that's problematic enough to mean that you'll need us to hold your hands through it. There's a faction of people who believe that about this movie. I'm not one of them, but still, there's enough of those people to make it possible. And it has to be something that's unclassifiable enough to mean we probably won't do it on our regular podcast. In sequeldom, yeah.
Right.
And that movie definitely ticks that box.
Absolutely, right.
I love this movie, but I don't know what the fuck it is. Or what it's trying to be.
Or what it's trying to be, exactly. Let me ask you this essential question.
Yeah.
I don't think this is a difficult question to answer. Which movie is more of a sequel, this or Rogue One?
Rogue One.
Yeah, I agree.
I just think
prequel sequel.
Rogue One is just easier to place in terms of the Star Wars canon. With this movie, I kind of flutter between whether it's a sequel to the prequels, a spin-off even, or an interquel. Like all those things potentially could be, and it never really, ties its mast to one particular post sequel-wise, which is probably to do with its troubled production circumstances. I think there's a lot of cooks here.
Let's talk about that, because right before we got on there, you said you have a lot to say about who you currently look like, Mr. Ron Howard.
Yeah.
Richie Cunningham himself.
Richie Cunningham himself, the TV son who had no choice but to keep it all together.
And so, tell me about your thought process as this movie was coming out.
Yeah.
Because we all kept hearing so much about the beleaguered problems this movie was having. Well, I'm forgetting right now. What was the duo of
Lord and Miller?
There you go.
Who were replaced mid-shoot, or actually I think maybe even pre-shoot. I don't know. I still don't really know, and I don't think Disney have been upfront about how much they actually directed of the movie.
Right.
They're listed as executive producers, which, as we know, can mean fucking anything. Anything from we need to pay these people off to they directed the movie. And Ron Howard was a surprise replacement. They were selling these the Star Wars anthology movies on the idea that it would be fresh new directors with their own vision for Star Wars, and that these would be kind of like alternative viewpoints. And then to go with like Ron Howard, one of the most established directors in Hollywood, who is very much a kind of George Lucas ringer, I mean, he directed Willow. He was in
Right.
American Graffiti.
Yeah.
So he's sort of, he's there as a almost like a George Lucas puppet. And
Well, I also feel like didn't it feel at the time it was, let's bring in our good friend.
yeah, I mean, it took it down a totally different path, which was very much towards traditional Star Wars, which
Uh-huh.
is what kind of fascinates me about the response to this movie and how ambivalent, sometimes negative it was, because it seems to me this could really, this could really satisfy an itch if you didn't like The Last Jedi, because to me, this is like original trilogy plus. Almost in terms of like it's got a more 1970s original Star Wars trilogy feel than some of the 1970s original trilogy movies.
All right.
So I'm baffled as to why the Not My Star Wars crowd weren't more positive towards this movie, because sometimes it feels like an antidote to The Last Jedi. But I think it came out 5 months after The Last Jedi. That was 3 Star Wars movies in 3 years. The Last Jedi had divided fandom. I just don't think people knew what to do with this movie at the time they were watching it when it first came out.
Well, I also think that part of the negative reaction has a lot to do with when you hear news stories,
yeah,
that a movie set is having nothing but problems,
yeah,
and then people are having to quit or being fired, and
it's the Ishtar complex.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly right.
And it doesn't and like Ishtar, it doesn't reflect on the actual movie, in my opinion.
Well, for the listeners of the How Dare You podcast, you know my feelings about Ishtar.
That's right. I
That
don't
is
think you
not
feel the
the
same
worst
way about
movie
this
ever
movie.
made. Yeah.
I don't think you feel the same way about this, though.
Not quite as much, but I don't hate this movie.
Good.
Let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this movie's young star as Han Solo?
I see how you've conspicuously avoided trying to pronounce his name.
Oh yeah.
Passing that burden on to me, and I won't. I'm not going to bite, Mike.
Damn it.
So Heinrich Ironbuck is a great. Well, no. So I think he's in a very difficult position. My only
that goes without saying.
Yeah. Well, I just said it. So the only other thing I've seen this actor in was Hail Caesar, and in that I was blown away by him. I didn't like that movie at all, but I loved his performance in it.
Okay.
The Coen Brothers movie about the movie industry, which
right.
is, I think, terrible, but he has a wonderful moment in it, and it did feel like a kind of star-making moment. So I would say the worst I can say about him is I think he's playing a lot of this close to the chest.
Okay.
I can sort of see the burden of being the first non-Harrison Ford actor to play Han Solo upon him.
That's how I feel, yeah.
There are moments of this movie I think he performs very well in context. And, it's interesting because, rewatching this movie, as I've done many times, perhaps more than any modern Star Wars movie post prequels.
See, I haven't seen it since I saw it in the theater.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
It has I guarantee you it has a lot more in it than you will remember. He's stuck in a really difficult position with regards to character development, because Han Solo has no character development.
Right.
The way he arrives in this movie is exactly the way we see him in The Force Awakens.
Sure.
The only kind of arc, if you can call it an arc, he has is somewhere in between Empire and basically when he's in Carbonite.
When he's in Carbonite, I was just gonna say when
he comes out of Carbonite, right? So I think you can pass off any character development he has in any of these movies to Carbonite sickness, I think. because it's pretty quick. He's pretty quickly out of the carbonite into the second Death Star operation. But so, what do you do with that as an actor? And
Well, okay.
I think he does. And I think he does the best he can with an entirely static character. There are times where I wish he'd take a few more risks, but in general, I think he carries the movie fine.
Okay. Um, I just remember thinking on my first viewing that I'm not watching a bad actor at all,
No.
but like you said, I could feel like the whole performance felt like I could feel the weight on his shoulders,
Yeah.
as opposed to just making his own choices. Now, sorry for me to be the person to bring this up, because you're the James Bond man, but
Yes. It
uh,
worked. It finally worked.
we're right at 8 minutes right now before I'm the one bringing up James Bond. But I've seen your one man show about James Bond. You love James Bond, and
Yes.
I've seen you in that show and in our discussions describe Daniel Craig's James Bond as the
Oh, now I know where you're going with
the
this.
James
Okay.
Bond who doesn't want to be James Bond,
Right,
and
right.
he's always quitting. But the one thing when I first
Well,
saw
that's in the movies as well. I mean, at no point is
yes,
Han Solo
right,
retiring from being Han Solo.
yeah. But my point is that I really liked when I first saw Casino Royale that he made his own choices.
Yeah.
That James Bond didn't have to be suave and debonair, that he could be quiet, silent, and brooding. And I really appreciated that he made those choices and just did his own thing.
Yeah, and that's
And
yeah. Carry on. Sorry.
well, I guess the only thing I would say in conjunction with that is obviously every time you start a new James Bond, it's like you're starting from zero. And so that's harder to do as Han Solo.
Yeah.
But
Especially now when no one will give you a sequel because you bankrupted the franchise.
yeah, exactly. And that's so, but to me, it was just, so your question was, what do you do as an actor? My response to you is, you don't give a fuck about
Yeah.
Harrison Ford. You just make your movie.
But then I'm sure that then the fan response would have been even more livid than it was, I think. I mean, he
Well,
shouldn't care.
it
But
depends. I mean, it depends on what he does, and
I mean, I don't want to get too deep in the woods when it comes to the differences between the Bond and the Star Wars franchise, but toxic fandom is far more ingrained in Star
oh yeah,
Wars
absolutely.
in the Star Wars audience, to the point where the idea that you could do what Daniel Craig did and challenge preconceptions and people go, okay, I buy it. I
Mhm.
just don't think there is that
You're right about
appetite.
that.
I don't think there's
I
that appetite in the Star Wars. Like they won't even let Luke Skywalker get away being a grumpy hermit, even though every other Jedi of his age we have seen turns into a grumpy hermit. So I don't think they're gonna let they're gonna let Heinrich Himmler or whatever he's called go away with get away with doing a Han Solo that is even less like Harrison Ford than what he's doing.
Right. That's fair.
And that's not to say he shouldn't, but I understand why he didn't and why they didn't let him.
Well, to me, it was more, he was trying to show Harrison Ford as young and roguish, as opposed to just like Harrison Ford's version. And to me, like that's kind of a death kiss as an actor. Like,
But then, not the first time we'll mention Godfather 2 in discussing this movie, but is that any different from what Robert De Niro did with young Vito Corleone in The Godfather 2?
well, for
And
starters,
everyone loved that.
let's start with we're dealing with a different caliber of actor, as good, and I'm
But
again, I'm not
what did he bring that was new? Robert. I mean, I
Well,
love that performance, but it's not really bringing anything new to the table that Marlon Brando hadn't already done.
so this brings up an interesting point because that performance, I think why everybody marveled at that performance is how uncanny it was that he seemed so much like a young Brando,
Right.
you know? But if you think about it, I mean, is that anything beyond the voice?
You talking about the
About De
singing,
Niro?
the singing show, or the singing show, The Voice?
No,
Okay.
no.
I know you like those singing shows. You mention them quite often.
In the
No,
pocket, in the pocket.
in the pocket. Uh, you mean De Niro, or who are we
Yeah, De
talking about?
Niro. I mean,
No, I think he's a smart enough actor to know that you can't escape the shadow of that performance, and that you have to work it into whatever you're doing. I think that's what's happening here. I think the production context, and also also what's going on in the movie means there's not much room or space for him to, he's constantly being given Han lines verbatim from other movies to say.
right.
So I don't know. I mean, I'm an actor. You're an actor. I'm not as good an actor as he is. Mike, I don't know quite what you're capable of, but um, I, I still, I sort of think, yeah, that's a tough gig. But here's my other perspective, and why I think these things are okay, is that this movie has an amazing supporting cast of characters and actors.
It's true.
And this movie just underlines to me that if we can figure out the subtitling problem, why the fuck do we not have a Chewie spin-off movie? Because he's the lead of this movie as far as I'm
Yeah,
concerned.
absolutely.
I mean,
I do remember that.
This is the only Star Wars movies that lets Chewie be Chewie. Talking about character development. It's like everything we've heard about him do, but never seen. Even when we saw the Wookiees at war, we didn't see it.
Right.
And this movie, he's ripping people's arms off. He's eating people alive. It's phenomenal. It's right where it needs to be. And, at the end of it, you come out. This movie, I think, comes out confirming the fan theory that, as far as Chewbacca is concerned, he is Han's owner and Han is his dog. Like, there are numerous references to that in this movie, and that for me is where this movie works best. Is in kind of, it's showing that really, Han and Chewie, we should be referring to it as Chewie and Han.
Well, and let's take it a step further. I mean, we've been talking about The Godfather. We're talking about the characters, and so we're talking about young Han Solo versus older Han Solo.
Yeah.
But you have the same thing in Lando. And Donald Glover is, I mean, he's the strength of this movie. He's great. I mean, he hits the Lando note exactly as we want.
I have that exact note written down. I say he's everything you want him to be.
Right. So
and
even in this movie, it's possible. You can pay homage to the actor who played him before, but still clearly, it's his character in this movie.
But the heat's not on him in the same way, I don't think.
True. That's true.
I mean, I know he's an iconic character. He also has the advantage, when something I noticed rewatching this movie recently is that he does a better job reviving Lando Calrissian than Billy D. Williams does in The Rise of Skywalker. Yeah, and that I'm not laying that at Billy D. Williams's door. They didn't want him. Carrie Fisher died. They brought him back. So he did what he could. He's a fucking old man. Right? He had to get in serious shape just to stand up and be in that movie. Just to be able to
stand and walk.
Yeah. I saw him on Dancing with the Stars. He nearly killed himself on that show.
Right.
It's like, so, but, at that point I thought, can we not just put aging makeup on Donald Glover instead? I mean, it would be a real slight.
Right.
While Billy D. Williams was still alive, but he could definitely pull it off because
right.
I suppose, that there's also a fandom element to it. I mean, without assuming too much or even knowing if this is the case, it looks like Donald Glover's been studying Billy D. Williams all his
His whole
life.
life, right?
Whereas, you know, Aidan Edmonds, I'll get it right eventually. Like Monkey Typewriter Skull, I'll get his name right. Is, you know, I don't think he's as concerned about
Alden Arnrick.
fucking hell. We should have prepped, shouldn't we? We should have
Yeah.
prepped this. Never mind the Arrested Development intro. I should have spent my time learning his name. I think he's not as concerned. I mean, you know, he wants to he's concerned about getting the tone of voice that Harrison Ford has,
Yeah.
and a lot of his mannerisms, but I don't think he's as concerned about, you know, fooling people into thinking that he's the same person. And that you know, that works either way in the arguments that both of us are making, that can you do this, can you not? Because he's not, you know, he's not he's the, you know, many of the complaints were he's not Harrison Ford enough. So you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Right.
I mean, I only really see it when he gets the blaster out. Like, before that point, I am willing to accept that this is a completely different guy. Even though he's kind of acting the same. And that's interesting because Lawrence Kasdan is back.
Yes, right.
And he has a very, I don't think this is a bad thing, but he has a very fixed idea of what Han Solo is, and I don't think he was willing to budge from that. So maybe the screenwriters need to think about, how do we do Han differently, or Han differently? That comes up in the movie.
Right.
But it's also, I think, but just to speak to your point, I think also we say, you know, this movie, one of the successes of this movie is Donald Glover's Lando. I mean, he's got his own TV series, so he's come out of this fine. Probably the only person who's come out of this well, at least in Star Wars terms. But I think the movie is at its strongest when it's the two of them together, and I don't think the movie gives the two of them enough time together.
Exactly. I remember being surprised by that on my first viewing. I thought, oh, I'd like to see more of them together.
But their relationship is really, the way that's written and performed, I think is really good.
Really good and rich.
I mean, they put their finger. There's a lot to say in this movie about, you know, retconning things into continuity and trying to anticipate things that we never needed to be anticipated. But one of the things yes,
go on.
Like dice.
Sorry,
like dice.
It's still a sore subject with me.
Well, we're going to talk about it. You're going to see a lot of that dice.
I know.
That it's the two of them together, it really pins down this idea that their relationship is based on a passive-aggressive dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that's definitely there in Empire, but we don't have time to flesh it out. And I think here, this completely like they do a lot of callbacks but it's callback. It's the callbacks between two people who are passive-aggressive towards each other. Neither of them wants to say, he does say I hate you. This blows my argument. Hando explicitly says I hate you, but neither of them wants to be the one who's like saying, you know, I'm better than you. So they have to do it with mind games. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I love the idea that their mind games go across, you know, generations.
Yes.
It would have been well, we can talk about missed opportunities in the Disney trilogy, you know, probably from now until next week. But for me, not having Han and Lando on screen is a worse crime than not having Han and Luke not have it. Because I understand story-wise why you would do that. I mean, I don't understand why they didn't want Billy D. Williams back in it. You know, it really fucked them in the ass because after Carrie Fisher dies, they have no choice.
Yeah.
It's like, Billy D. Williams and get Ian McDermott. He's dead. Don't care.
No.
Me, Ian McDermott. Pictures of Ian McDermott.
All right, well, we're almost getting to it, so let's tell everybody we are watching this on Disney Plus. So we'll give you a moment to to get to Disney Plus and bring up Solo before we start. Anything else you want to talk about before we get going specifically?
Well, I mean, I just want, I was conflicted about choosing this one. Obviously, I really like this movie. I would go as far to say it is my favorite Star Wars movie outside the original trilogy.
You like it more than Rogue One?
Yes, definitely.
Oh wow!
To me, it's the one that seems to have not to say that I see the flaws in this movie from a mile away.
Okay,
but I don't think it has the same foundational flaws that the other Star Wars movies do. Which is not to say that I think those are good or bad or what's like.
But what are those foundational flaws? You mean each one's different?
No, I mean that the flaws of this movie don't compromise it in the same way that Attack of the Clones, which is a movie I always enjoy.
Really?
Like I know, I'm weird. But I like Ray Harryhausen movies, so I like Attack of the Clones. But when you start to think about movies like Last Jedi or Force Awakens, they kind of all crumble immediately. And for some reason, this one, maybe because it's built on really solid genre foundations.
Okay.
I think it works. But not to say that it isn't flawed. You asked me before, like, what was my experience at the time of this? I bought in. I drank the Kool-Aid. I didn't go and see it at the theater. Everything was telling me this was going to be terrible. I finally saw it online and I watched it and rewatched it and loved it every time. So I want to apologize for being one of those people that made this a relative bomb for Disney.
Yeah, you did not contribute.
Yeah, I'm part of the problem.
Yeah, you are.
Now I'm trying to be part of the solution by being its apologist, basically.
This movie only made $213.7 million in the USA, and part of that problem is you.
Yeah.
Because it had a $275 million budget, by the way.
Yeah. And that's borne out by
fucking shit.
That's borne out by the inverse relationship between the size of names and the size of the screen in the credits at the end. So yeah, and but it's interesting because I think that shows to me that May the 12th was entirely the wrong time to release this movie. That is the biggest problem. That's the biggest obstacle of this movie, is that at that point, because a lot of people didn't like Last Jedi, because there have been 3 Star Wars movies in 3 years, it was only 5 months later, people didn't want to see a Star Wars movie, any Star Wars movie, even one that answers some of the problems of the previous movie for a lot of people.
Right.
And I must have been the same. I mean, I was a young father at the time, so, movie going wasn't really on the table for, father.
All right, yeah.
But so I'll give myself that out. But I could have made it work. I was just, honestly, like everyone else, just fatigued. Like, there's something to be said for waiting,
20 years.
Like 20 odd years, and then like being 2 to 3 years between each of the movies.
Yeah.
That's not an accident. And the way that Disney had kind of accelerated the release schedule, it's kind of interesting that that they're making all the same mistakes again now, and they've just, but in other media, really, it's like TV series after TV series,
right, one after another,
is coming out. So I think it's it's interesting to see this movie out of that context, and also in the context of something like The Mandalorian, which I think this movie is a precursor to in some ways. It does a lot of the same kind of gritty world building that movie does, but for some reason people have gravitated towards that and not this. And I don't know if I entirely understand why, even though I love The Mandalorian.
We'll see. Yeah, we'll see how I feel upon this viewing. My first viewing, what I remember was feeling like I was on a roller coaster ride of, oh, I really like this. This I don't like. Oh, I love that. No, this is terrible.
And it sounds like Temple of Doom.
Yeah,
right,
exactly.
So maybe
very
it's how you feel.
minecart ride.
Yeah, Yeah, no, I get that totally, and it's I've complained about movies lurching from set piece to set piece before, and
Mhm.
this movie does that as well. There are some damn good set pieces, but it's also like what comes down to the fundamental question of what is this movie and where does it stand into relation to the other Star Wars movies. I also felt conflicted about doing this, not just because I like it, but because we've already done a Star War on the Watch Logs.
Right.
So R.I.P. Jessica Walter, and that's Arrested Development. So Ron
Yeah,
Howard
there,
into the
there
bargain.
you
There you
go.
go. It all connects. It's a symbiont
It's
circle.
all coming together. Well,
Um,
I'm ready if you're.
I've been ready. I'm always ready to watch this movie, so I'm certainly ready now.
Fantastic. Let's do
I
it,
hope some of that
everyone.
positivity, like electronically transmits to you. But you're free to think whatever you want.
And I
Um,
will.
this is what I felt like. I think when we were doing the Harry Potters.
Oh no, I don't think I'm that negative towards
Okay,
this movie.
and
No.
I wasn't that negative either. You just characterized me that way. It was just really hard to sit down and watch them. For like anyone who complaining about my views on Harry Potter, just remember it was like my SCART cable broke. I've been through the whole story. It was
Oh
just
yeah.
it wasn't a pleasant viewing experience. But you know what? Update, breaking news. I've agreed to watch the first movie with my son because he expressed an interest recently. What's the
Nice.
what? Of course, I don't remember what the name of the first movie is. Alchemists, philosophers, something. It's different in different countries.
Yeah, it's
Philosopher's
different in
Stone.
different places, but Sorcerer's Stone, yeah.
Oof. Uh,
Don't you oomph me.
so I'm gonna watch that. So maybe we'll talk about that at a future date.
I love it. All right, let's do it. Are you ready, Tom?
Yeah, I think so. I can see the burgeoning gray Lucasfilm logo appearing
Yeah,
on my screen.
we're paused at 1 second, everyone. So I'll count us down, Tom.
Go for it.
Here we go. Everyone, Solo, a Star Wars story in 3, 2, 1, go.
It's so weird how these movies don't begin with sound anymore.
Right?
I mean, from 20th century Fox to silence, it makes no sense. It is a lawless time.
Lawless time.
We're getting into Highlander 2, complicated opening scroll territory.
Totally.
Here.
Well, and
And
it's
there's
also
more.
interesting. I think it's interesting that it's all wow, man.
That's a lot to
Shipbuilding.
digest. I'll give you that. That's a lot to digest, and none of it
Well,
matters.
especially when they capitalize the things that you'll understand the least.
This would have been enough. On these mean streets, a young man. See, that's great. That's enough. I could have just had that.
Right.
And Mean Streets is also good noir phrasing, which tells me this is going to be a genre movie, as does the nighttime theft of a car in an urban setting. I think they panned up to those spaceships to remind you weren't watching The Driver.
Well, it's like it's weird. It's also weird that we have. Oh, go fuck yourself.
Well, let's start talking about this dice then. What? Like, why are you prejudiced against the metal furry dice?
I'm prejudiced against them because we never saw them until The Last Jedi.
That's not true. Do you know what? Do you know what the truth may annoy you more, but that's not the full truth.
Oh, now I'm scared.
You can see them. They were in the original Star Wars, but like you barely see them. They're there, but you barely see them. So
Wow.
what they've done is basically said, we want to make this a thing, and we'll use Last Jedi and this to retcon it into continuity, which is a trick this movie pulls again and again and again and again. I'm fine with it.
Of course you are.
This is, I mean, straight in, Han Solo is fully formed character-wise.
Character-wise, yeah.
And in the way he looks as well. He's exactly dressed the same.
So, you know what I think it is? Because, yes, character-wise, looks-wise, it all seems there. Is it just vocal quality? Because he sounds a bit more nasally?
Jesus.
I'm just asking. I'm asking, is this what...
He sounds like what Carpenter era Harrison Ford might have sounded like if he had a head cold. Also, the fuel we've seen in the titles and here they talk about fuel coaxium or some shit like that.
Some shit.
I think that's another, like, Last Jedi made such a big deal of the scarcity and importance of fuel, which is something that's never been an issue in Star Wars
an issue before.
So I think this movie is basically trying to answer that problem.
All right.
Lady Proxima, here she comes. Now,
and also, to me, because I was about to say this earlier, don't you think it was weird that this movie couldn't decide if it wanted a cold open or not?
Yeah. That's how you know it's not necessarily a sequel, because as we know,
right,
sequels have guaranteed cold opens. This Lady Proxima is a really good effect puppet thing. Yeah. This is too underlit.
Agreed.
I get what this, you know, it pays off somewhat, but
it's starting to remind me of a scene. Stick with me now, just for a second. In Pollock. And
well, that's a kind of an origin story.
Right. But oh, now I'm blanking on his name.
Is it Hopkins? Or is it Ed
no, Ed Harris.
Right.
But who is it? Because there's I think it's Jeffrey Tambor. Jeffrey Tambor is at his house.
It really is a symbiont circle around Arrested Development.
Exactly, right. That's what made me remind me of it, because he's looking at one of his paintings and he says, "It's too blue."
I've never seen that movie, but
so he's going to go up and awesome. Get the blue out, and he can't do it. And that's what this scene reminds me of. Too blue.
It's too blue, and you can't see what, you know, special effects technicians and puppeteers have worked on for literally years.
At least they give you a reason now for why it's
for the sun coming through sunburn moment. But yeah. I don't think that. I think I would rather it be in full light and skip that, because Lady Proxima looks and sounds great, and we don't get to see it.
And it also looks like they're keeping a lot of the sort of aesthetic city style from Rogue One, of sort of slums with the electrical wires hanging around. You know what I mean? Like,
absolutely, yeah.
They feel in continuity.
I like that. I kind of like the way we know it's a car chase again, like solid genre foundations here. But if anything, this doesn't go far enough for me. I would like a full car chase at this point. This is like neither here nor there. What did you think of the crime orphanage?
Of the what?
The crime orphanage. A little bit Oliver Twist.
Yeah.
Oh, protocol droid.
Oh, there you go.
Now, one of the things I don't understand about this movie is why they wanted so many droids in it, and yet not C-3PO and R2-D2.
I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay, I mean, interesting. Maybe
yeah.
It's because of people like you then.
Only because, and the reason I say that is, on the whole, this series can't seem to get away from jamming those two characters into every single movie. And we don't have to do that.
No, I agree with that. But what's weird about this movie is there's more talk about droids, more discussion of droids than in any other Star Wars movie. There are R2 units everywhere. There's protocol droids everywhere. One of them is voiced by Anthony Daniels. There must have been like an edict to not have R2-D2 and C-3PO in, because they are there in all but name. It must have been, you know, the reaction to their cameo in Rogue One. That's the only thing I can think of. It must have been like a test screening note or something. Because weirdly, I think they would have fit a wedge in the wall. I really like the wedge in the wall.
That's very Mr. Burns.
Bring the hounds. Continue the research.
What are you going to do? Release the dogs or the bees or the dogs with bees in their mouths?
Hey, you know, this movie's so underlit, there might be dogs with bees in their mouths and we'd never know.
Possible.
Move along. Move along. It's so sonically similar to the original trilogy. It sounds like they're walking through a Ben Burt sound effects album.
But Rogue One and this movie feel like they pay well, and so does Mandalorian. They feel like they pay a lot of attention to those details.
Yeah, and this checkpoint scene I think is great for that. It's like real world building stuff. It's like it's like a set piece we would never see in any of the other movies. So I'm glad it's in here. Funny, that's going to happen to you.
Right. I was just going to say.
Why do people do that in movies? Not to get all Seinfeld about it, but why do people do that in movies? Say exactly the thing that's going to happen to them before it happens. There's two Imperial officer exchanges in this scene, which are great, and like it feels very plausible as to what it would be like working as an Imperial officer. I mean, I can't imagine there's that many people interested in that but me, but like you see so many like pantomime Imperial officers. It's really nice to get like a grumpy one who's just tired of their job. I guess Mandalorian has its fill of those.
My dice.
It really makes me sad this moment. I love that this movie is like it tributes so much to this moment, and it's so low stakes. I mean, it's lower stakes than the pod race, and yet
right.
it's treated with such heightened melodrama.
Melodrama, right?
It's beautiful. I think it's beautiful because it's a purely character moment, and we don't get enough of those
That guy took
in
my
Star
hat.
Wars.
Whenever a character does this in any movie, just starts taking clothes off people, nobody ever complains.
That would have been there's an R2 unit.
R2 unit.
Why the fuck is R2D2 not in this movie? He could have just been there, and then someone could have written a comic about it. That I won't read. That would have been the prime moment for like a Ron Howard director's cameo, I think, like a Hitchcock cameo.
A Hitchcock moment?
Yeah,
Nice.
like he takes off, it's like a cap, and it takes it off his head, and we see Ron Howard without his cap for the first time. He's like, hey!
Come on.
Now, this moment, the Imperial recruitment video with the Imperial March theme feels very holiday special to me. I'm not saying that is a bad thing, but I'm gonna call holiday special.
That's fantastic.
This guy. Love this guy. Love this Imperial officer. It's like, oh fuck, what's your name?
That's great.
Here's your name. Go. More than my job's worth, as we would say in England.
But that's why I was kind of snickering at the first Imperial Guard. I love the idea, because throughout especially the first 3 movies, they're just all evil all the time. You know what I mean? They're just there to do their work. And I love that you see somebody think, hey, I could get a little something going back to Godfather 2, let me wet my beak a little bit.
Well, we just had a Godfather 2 moment there where he gets his name from the person at immigration who has a lack of imagination.
Right.
Just goes, Solo, it's fine. And that was something that really annoyed people as well. I think a lot of people felt that was answering a question they never asked. About his name. But weirdly, in my headcanon, I always assumed that people's names were just what they gave themselves in the Star Wars universe. Apparently, you can just call yourself Skywalker. So I like the hard cut to the World War I trench warfare.
Yeah, right.
And this to me sort of does like anti-war satire in a way that's not as preachy as Last Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's just like, war's fucking absurd.
Yeah.
As opposed to, well, you know, class warfare in the economy is a serious problem. We need to take it in consideration in all depictions of war. Fuck off. Woody Harrelson.
Lovely.
So many good people in this movie.
I know.
Who are good in the movie.
Yeah.
The voice of Jon Favreau.
Right.
Little did we know.
Yep.
That voice, the voice of that man, would save Star Wars from this. Andy Newton as well. I mean,
yeah,
laying the stars on thick.
Well, some major talent.
Yeah.
You know?
I really like the fact that they decided to go with trench warfare, because it's like each phase of Star Wars has its own human 20th century war.
Like, yeah, right.
So the original trilogy is World War II.
Mm-hmm.
Prequels is Iraq. As it happens, Iraq and Afghanistan. Disney sequels is like whatever fascist war is going on, civil war is going on in America, between fascists and liberals. And this is World War One. And Rogue One's kind of like the Cold War, I always thought.
Oh yeah, yeah.
It's like information. You want to get that little. You want to get the microfilm.
Yeah,
yeah. I like how snappy the dialogue is as well.
Well, and I'm really liking him in this scene.
Yeah. Yeah, he's really good when he calls out the absurdity of war.
Yeah.
It's nice. It's like, you know, Last Jedi is about class and economic warfare. This is about colonialism. It's interesting. Also, like, we've never seen, well, I guess we have in The Force Awakens, but at this point in Star Wars history, we've never seen the point of view of the Empire.
Yeah.
Like from the ground up. I get a lot of that Kasdan Empire sound.
Yeah.
You know, I think they replicate that really well. Flyboy. Not the last time he'll be called that.
Right.
It's like Jakku in that respect. And I don't think that's an accidental connection. Speaking of Rogue One, did you also get the sense that why does Thandie Newton have Forrest Whitaker's hair from Rogue One? And I know that was a point of contention. Like, he originally filmed it bald, and then they had to reshoot it with hair.
The Beast.
I will freely admit, the first time I saw this, it looks very obvious now in retrospect. I did not see this coming.
No.
When I heard "Feed the Beast," I did not.
You were thinking Rancor monster?
I don't know. I mean, that's why sometimes this movie like genuinely surprises me. I was like, and I should have known that at some point they're going to meet in the movie, because why make the movie if you don't do that?
Yeah.
And maybe my favorite scenes in the movie. Certainly my favorite line in the movie comes up soon. Also, you know, we also didn't talk about a maybe more important piece of recasting here, which is like second Chewie.
Yeah.
Non-Peter Mayhew Chewie.
That's true.
How fucking good is this guy? I know he studied under Peter Mayhew and they switched out in one of the movies, but still. At no point are you like, that's not Chewie.
No, yeah, no.
Even though we've never seen him beat anyone up in any of the movies until now.
Yeah. It's always just the threat.
Yeah, it's always just like, hey, he'll pull your arms off.
Yeah.
It's like
followed by.
Yeah, we only ever see him I realize this watching this movie, we've only ever seen him as a scared and or hungry dog. And that's why we love him.
Yeah.
But he's capable of real violence, and I love that this movie brings that to
shows that.
He's nearly killed San Solo.
You dumb Wookiee.
Me have plan of breakout. You and I freedom make by secret game of pretend. My favorite line in the movie. I love that I love that they're using like the alien subtitling for comedy. That's such a great idea. The Mandalorian definitely took.
I was just gonna say that felt like very Mandalorian, and that this movie gave
The
that yin.
wisecracking stormtroopers, which was then ruined by J.J. Abrams in Rise of Skywalker. I still think this scene's underlit. I know it's a pit, but I want to see more Chewie. I just want to see more of what's in the movie. That classic odd couple bit, they're chained together.
Yeah, exactly.
I love it.
Very good friends.
He also calls him a moof milker at some point, doesn't he? Has that happened yet?
It really is a great meet cute for Han and Chewie, though.
I think it's great. Because
I gotta give him that.
As I understand it, in some of the early novelizations and ancillary material, they described the fact that Chewie is tied to Han because he has a life debt because Han saved his life.
Mm-hmm.
What I like about this is that doesn't disprove that. It just tells you that there's more to the story. They saved each other's lives. You know, it was never guaranteed that they would stay together. They have to choose to do it, and I love that.
Yeah.
And again, there's like no point in this movie where it's like we have to be together. They just kind of fall into it, and that's nice. It's actually kind of, because that's how, that's how headcanon, that's how I always imagined it. I never thought Chewie was Han's slave, which is what Star Wars.
Oh, I never thought that.
Well, that's what some Star Wars stuff basically says. He has a life debt.
Yeah, all right. That's great.
The shower scene.
That's amazing.
It's perfectly executed character comedy, and introduces the idea that they're the longest
couple.
Yeah, the longest couple in Star Wars, and quite rightly. There's even I can't wait for. There's an implication later that other Wookiees think that they're getting it on, and that's great. Oh. He looks like when Paddington comes out of the bath with all the flowing hair.
Right. Yeah, I got to get to Life Day.
I got to get back to Mala and Itchy and Lumpy. You know what? I'll just go with you. I don't want to use the word burden, but I don't want to go back and find my father-in-law jerking off to Diana Carroll again.
I'm just saying.
I like that the screenplay keeps giving them a reason to stay together. Like, it isn't just like, we're together now.
Yeah.
Like, they have to keep convincing each other to be an alliance.
To stick. Yeah, right.
That's good genre writing, I think.
If we do this, then we can be free.
That's like something that, they would make a big deal of in the Rockford Files writer room, it feels like.
Right.
They're like, but why is Jim Rockford doing all this? He's got to have a reason. Well, this is like the Rockford Files, basically.
Right.
Bosk? I have never noticed that before. Bosk is one of the bounty hunters in Empire. Is he the lizard man?
Oh, see, I was thinking it was the big skinny robot.
No, that's IG something.
Oh, that's right. He's great.
Rio is really well written, played, and executed.
Yeah.
I love the fact that his face matches Jon Favreau's signature lisp.
Totally.
That's a really nice melding of actor and character. Also like that we've just become a heist movie.
Mm-hmm.
Works for me. Chewbacca's so fluffy. How long was he in that shower?
No, he had some conditioner for sure.
Do you think it's underlit on purpose? Like,
Well,
are they trying to do a Gordon
yes.
Willis Godfather thing, like a 70s movie thing?
Oh, like a callback in that way? I don't know. That's
It's just so
interesting.
underlit. It's so many scenes.
Who, me?
You need to go where everybody knows your name.
You cheap son of a bitch.
Hey, there's so many callbacks. Why not a Cheers one?
I agree.
Keeps the holiday special in play
There you go.
without tying, without suggesting Chewbacca as a deadbeat dad. They should have gone further and been like, and when I find them, I'm going to set them up in a nice suburban treehouse. They're going to have all the technology they
They're
want.
gonna have right. Let me tell you, that kitchen is gonna have everything.
My father-in-law can have all the video porn he could ever jerk off to. Hologram acrobats. There's no end to what my family will have when I find them. This is a great set piece. It's possible this movie never recovers from how good the set piece is.
Yeah. I remember thinking the same thing.
It's like you're like the Death Star sequence, but it's probably not good screenwriting to put the Death Star sequence
Well,
at
we're not there yet either, but
30 minutes into the movie.
well, tell me, on your first viewing, the Kessel Run, like above expectation, meets it, or below it?
I'd never attached too much significance to the Castle Run. I thought Han always made it up. I thought it was bullshit.
That's funny.
And I like the fact that it's both is and is not bullshit. Like he's taking some liberties with the facts, but it did actually happen.
Right.
So I was up for all of it.
All right.
I've never said no to a space chase. I could do without the octopus, but we'll get there.
All right.
But that would possibly be my no on every Star Wars movie. I could do without tentacles. Lose the tentacles, and you got yourself a movie.
This part, I dig this.
It's amazing.
This all looks really cool.
Yeah, they figured out how to light the movie 30 minutes into it. Like just enough so you can see what's going on and not enough so that the atmosphere is ruined. In my behind the scenes headcanon, it was Ron Howard who came in and fixed the lighting, but it's possibly not true. Hey, you guys are lighting this way too low.
Hey,
Phil.
come on. Maybe because we don't even know. Maybe it's a difference between the directors.
I definitely feel like there's a lot of I get a lot of the Superman 2 fragmentation thing here. Not just in this scene, in the whole movie.
Yeah.
Like the scenes which feel like they're overlapping, duplicating, reshoots here and there. But then I'm like, well, they can't be reshoots because we can't do without them, but they feel like reshoots.
Right.
The Marauders.
You know, like us.
It's like the best
Man.
Disneyland ride.
Right? Yeah.
This is what should be at Galaxy's Edge. It would also keep the numbers down, which I'd be happy with. Want to go on the solo ride? Nope. It's just
I'm
me.
good.
It's just me going around like 60 times
just
a day.
The best kept
You
secret
again.
in all of Star Wars. But you know what this scene also reminded me of was I'll never remember the name of it, but one of the video games.
Oh, one of the Star Wars video games?
Yeah.
But not like in a bad way, not like in an Attack of the
No, yeah,
Clones,
no, not at
Attack of
all.
the
And it's
Clones
like not
droid
in the sense
factory
that you
way.
had to steal anything or anything, but just
Yeah.
sort of the look of it. Rogue Squadron, maybe I want to say.
That sounds right. That's kind of what I mean. That's kind of what's cool about heist movies in general, isn't it? Like you can be very set piecey, but it's all with the
Yeah.
ultimate goal of you're trying to steal something.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just it's not just spectacle; it's plot too. I could have done without the Viper droids. I just feel like this sequence stands on its own. I don't want any other Star Warsy things in it other than Han and Chewie. But this movie doesn't roll that way. If you can throw a Star Wars thing in, they will.
Right.
Although maybe it's like proprietary. Lawrence Kasdan's like, they're my droids. I wrote them. Would they be here? No, but I'm putting them in. I get a character payment every time they appear.
Come on, that's fucking cool, man.
It's so cool. Do you think people enjoyed this and then just forgot they enjoyed it because it was so early on in the movie?
Like, I mean, yeah, it's hard to say.
You want people leaving the movie going, "Oh, that heist sequence."
Well, and
it's not even in the middle of the movie, which is where normally you get the heist in heist movies, like the killing and Asphalt Jungle. It all happens like around the middle. Rafifi.
I wonder if it's a thing of
makes me really sad. I don't want Rio to die.
No.
Don't
you think part of it was people like walked into the movie wanting to hate it?
Yeah. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. And the studio pre-sabotaged it.
Yeah.
They were like, we've written this one off already. Go see it if you want to, but don't feel like you have to. It's not a real Star Wars movie.
Kind of like disavowed it, didn't you know?
They did. They leaked. I think, they purposefully leaked information about how, because Disney play everything close to the chest unless they want word to get out.
Yeah.
I think they sold it out. Disney are the Becketts of the Solo release.
Yeah.
Spoiler. Now Thandie Newton's going. That's we've just met these characters and they're dead.
Right?
I mean, yeah.
Chewie's gonna take care of business.
I suppose I can. I don't know. I see the point of why they kill off Thandie Newton because we see how much she means to Beckett, so we can roll with that. But I don't get why they kill off Rio so quickly. Is it just because he's so difficult to do as a special effect? They were like, I'm not doing any more of this.
Well, you notice that, of course, like they wanted to make it a clean sweep of the minorities.
True. And I suppose he teaches Han the lesson of don't die alone.
Right.
It's a great death scene. I love it. I love how understated everything is. Like the emotions are clear, they're simple, they're not over, you know, it's not Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman.
Totally.
Voicing, you know, like having to say every emotion out loud because it's not clear what they're thinking.
That's so cool.
The implosion is very, very cool. Some of the best effects in all of Star Wars. The trailer moment's coming up.
Yeah, right.
The trailer made this look like something very different. Chewie knows what that means.
Chewie knows.
Do you think Chewie just went, in Wookiee just went, oh, not Darth Maul.
For fuck's sake.
Not fucking Darth Maul and his spider legs. Yeah. You will.
Yep. I mean, that's a line a writer writes when they go, oh yeah, the audience is gonna dig that shit.
But it's so many of the problems in this movie I just attribute to prequels, the format. It's like you have to say out loud what happens to a character in the future. You're always in this kind of anticipation mode, which breeds bad writing.
Mm-hmm.
Is that all you care about? I thought Beckett was about to layer him there. If money is all that you want. I don't miss Carrie Fisher.
Right.
So does this movie, but that's another story.
That's another story.
They don't lay on the Leia Daju.
Well, it's Carrie Fisher, man. I mean, come on. Beyond Star Wars as a writer.
That'd be harder to recast, I think.
Mm-hmm.
As a younger person. Not that I'm saying you should do a digital de-aged
I was gonna say
Uncanny Valley thing that they did in Rogue One, but I get why they don't want to do that, especially after this movie, given how unpopular it was. I guess that's why they didn't do it with in The Mandalorian either.
Yeah, maybe.
I would have happily had a non-Mark Hamill Luke, but the fans feel differently. Now, I love everything about this sail barge. The Art Deco 1930s interior, which has got just enough Star Wars lines, you know, those bar
Right.
things to tell you it's Star Wars, but also is very identical. Oh, and the Serge Gainsbourg squid.
Oh, yeah.
A Star Wars song in a bar that isn't shit. And prequel Grace Jones. Love it. I just love how, like, this is such a step up from Space Monte Carlo from The Last Jedi.
Oh, man.
Feels like a real bar
It
that they're
does.
walking into. It's not too busy.
And yeah, Star Wars Monte Carlo, man, did that bother me.
Yeah, me too. Like, obviously, everyone's on their best behavior because it's a gangster. Because
He's
because
just finishing.
Paul Bettany will do that to you.
Yeah.
But I love that the vibe is chilled as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like leprechauns and slot machines. Oh, that glass. Love that glass.
Right.
Paul Bettany's so good. Why the fuck didn't they cast him in the main trilogy as an Imperial, a First Order person or something?
Yeah.
He's so fucking good. This is where I feel I'm glad Ron Howard's a director, because he's like quite traditional when it comes to the way he films things, and
Yeah.
like he doesn't do much kind of like fantastical.
Not a lot of look at me.
Yeah, exactly. And after Space Monte Carlo, it's exactly what you want when you do a bar scene. Oh, those windows are amazing.
Holy shit.
Possibly too much of a coincidence. But again, you know, it's a small galaxy.
Right? Must be.
Everyone keeps going, like, all of it is done through, you know, everyone's experience is through Tatooine, which is apparently this remote hick planet that everybody goes to.
But it's the center of this universe.
So I blame the franchise, not the movie. I wonder if the actor is thinking, "Oh, great! Now I don't even have a motivation anymore. I was already struggling playing this character. Now I have zero motivation. My only motivation was to get back to her. Now she's here. What the fuck do I do now? Now she's in front of me. What do I play now, Ron?" Oh. Let's drink two, see where it goes. Oh, Chewie has to double fist. Do you see the drink in his beard? Wookiee beard? Oh yeah. My god. Such a good performance. I love it. And such a good characterization.
Yeah.
By the movie. I like the fact that Chewie likes Han more than Han likes Chewie. At this point. I guess that's always true.
Right. Yeah. Could be said.
But it's like they're actually trying to keep their distance at this point. And I really like that. Because there must be like all kinds of subconscious, I'm better than this bear.
Yeah.
in the Star Wars universe. And they're playing all that. Like director and actor are playing all that. Later on in the movie, he carries their bags like he's an African American in a 1940s Hollywood movie. Yeah. But I mean, you know, I'm sure there's Wookiee prejudice. we know there's Wookiee prejudice
Ow.
from Princess Leia calling him a walking carpet.
Yeah.
It's another nice change of pace for a villain, I think. Paul Bettany.
Mm-hmm.
It's like charming, possibly nice guy villain.
Right.
Until he's not.
Right. Until the moment he's not. Right.
Reminds me of like, and I guess period-wise, this is what they're going for. It reminds me of Kirk Douglas in Out of the Past. You're
nice.
touchy. He'll just, you know, like he's nice to you, and then he'll just turn. Is Han eating a stick of celery?
See, I thought he was eating crab meat out of a crab claw.
Oh yeah, no. Later on, they do say it's like there's basically this one fish that they gut from head to tail and eat all of. He didn't need to say simply there, did he?
Right.
It's very simple. Too simple, perhaps.
Mm. That's his secret code for shut the fuck up.
Just go shut up. Spice Mines of Kessel. It is an original trilogy reference. Scarif is Rogue One, so it's bridging that gap.
There you go.
Modern day old Star Wars. That's as close to a project as I can get for this movie. Just wants to be the bridge between the trilogies. Everyone's playing the scene really well.
Oh yeah.
Including Chewie.
Including Chewie, of course. Yes.
Chewie's like, I fucking know the name of this place. Listen.
Just hear me speak.
If we all listened to Chewie like all the time, there wouldn't be a Star War.
Right.
Oh, it's great. I love that moment. All right.
It's up there with Raising Arizona. Okay, then.
Oh, he's gonna Columbo them. I love the fact that Paul Bettany says, I feel great about this plan.
Yeah.
He's like every hip boss you've ever had. A weird way to introduce anyone.
I mean, and we're deep into this movie.
Droid fighting.
Battle bots.
Lots of background extra droids. Hey, maybe it was C-3PO and R2-D2 who wouldn't sign on for this movie. Maybe they saw the writing on the wall.
Right.
He sells Colt 45 on TV.
Yeah, it does. Like nobody fucking else. I'll tell you that much.
He's Harvey Dent, but not Two-Face.
Have you ever heard Keegan-Michael Key be him selling Colt 45?
No, but I imagine it's something
great
to behold. I've seen him as Lando on the set of Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, we've already said everything we need to say about his Donald Glover's seamless transition into Lando Calrissian. I mean, you can unfocus your eyes and you'd think it was Billy D. Williams.
Yeah.
He calls him Han. See, I like that. That is
great.
That is totally retconning into continuity the fact that Billy D. Williams
could never say the right name.
Never say the right name. But it totally works with their relationship because once Lando knows that he doesn't like being called Han, he's going to call him Han every single time.
Right.
I think the low lighting is justified here.
Yes.
Speaking of Bond movies, I like the kind of rogues gallery of card game players. Yeah. Although there's too many eyes on that thing. You can in a Star Wars movie you can always lose tentacles and you can always lose some eyes.
Right.
And you'll be fine. I've only just noticed how montagey parts of this movie are, and makes me remember that Ron Howard is a director who worked primarily in the 80s.
Yeah, right. That was a bit of a cheap bit.
Yeah, the nail biting, yeah. It's like one joke too far a lot of the time in this movie. I'll cop to that. You know what this also shows me? Like, we don't know the rules of this card game, but we understand what's going on.
Yeah.
You don't need to explain the rules of a card game to get the drama of playing cards, I think. That's why Casino Royale didn't need to be Texas
What a
Hold'em.
great little piece acting from Chewie right there.
I know.
Come on.
That, and in the card game at the end, he has an even better moment. Full sabak. Such a good bait and switch. You think this is going to be where he wins the Falcon.
Yeah, totally.
But you have to wait for that. Also, but what was kind of good is it does feel like that this is written by someone who knows card games, because that feeder thing is a real card
Yeah.
player's trick.
I mean, he is full Billy D right
Yeah.
there.
But it's good because we know that's an affected bit
Uh-huh.
that he does, so it makes sense that he'd be doing it for like 20 years every time he meets a sexy woman
Right.
or a robot, as we come to find out. Because he's freaky. Robot freaky. How much older was Billy D from Harrison Ford?
Oh, that's a good question.
Older, right? He's got to be probably not as old as you probably not older
Yeah.
than you think, because Harrison Ford is pretty old when I mean,
Right.
in Hollywood nonsense
But you would
terms.
say somewhere between 5 and 10, wouldn't you? Let's find out.
I always, if only there was a machine nearby that could tell us these things.
Right.
it certainly it certainly tells us all we need to know about Lando's ability to lose on a deal.
Mm-hmm.
He really hasn't mastered the art of negotiation. This deal gets worse and worse all the time.
Yeah. So 5 years.
Okay. I always felt he was older. Clint Howard!
Yep.
That's how you know it's a Ron Howard movie. Okay, what do you think about L337? Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Oh, love.
Oh, you do? Oh, good.
Yeah.
Not my favorite droid, but
Oh, yeah. I mean, I thought you meant in general. I'm not saying
oh, good.
top of the list of droids, but
I like how they've
plus I just love Phoebe Waller-Bridge. So
well, similar to Rio, I think they've built around the actor.
I remember when I first saw it, it was like I liked that walk. Like,
well, it's yeah. I mean, if you see Phoebe Waller-Bridge, her physicality, it's all there.
Yeah.
Which is like where CGI and motion capture is really elevated in the past.
Right.
Well, since Jar Jar Binks, basically.
Yes.
Although, well, I don't know. I mean, I've seen Ahmed Best performing on set, and he's doing the things that ended up in the movie, I suppose. So it's just shouldn't have been in the movie, but it's not his fault. But it definitely captures the essence of her as a performer in the same way Rio did with Jon Favreau, even though it looks like from the way she's squatting there.
Mm-hmm.
And the Kessel Run thing, which we've already talked about, it's like, oh, Falcon.
Yep.
That came out of nowhere, and it's underlit. Jesus fucking Christ. Ron! Order some more lights, Ron. They'll bring them to you. They'll give you whatever you need. You're not working on a Roger Corman film. I just thought we'd keep it low. We have literally all the money in the world. The musical refrain almost makes up with it, but I wish it wasn't at night in the dark under smoke. Don't think that does the Falcon justice. I've only just noticed that basically Beckett is Darth Vadering Lando. He's just changing the terms of the deal.
Mm-hmm.
Funny that he never mentioned that to Darth Vader. It's like, don't you try and Beckett me. Again, I didn't know it was Warwick Davis's voice there, but I should have known.
Right. More connections to Ron Howard
and George Lucas.
Yeah.
The Howard Lucas family is all here. Sometimes literally, in the case of Clint. So he mentions his dad there. I mean, I assumed he was an orphan, but his dad got laid off. So it's like tying Han to the fate of the American blue collar worker, really.
Right.
Except on Corellia. But I also wonder whether like this was trying to, because there was a draft of Empire where Han's father was a character and he was like a rich guy. So glad they didn't do that, because that's basically the Last Jedi.
Yeah.
And they go to him for help. If someone hasn't done this already, please digitally add a can of Colt 45 to Donald Glover in the entirety of this movie.
Right.
Buckle up, baby. Oh, fucking space chess. This went from the most underused image in the original trilogy to the most overused bit. It's a great line, but I don't understand why that means she'd be looking at Lando's capes. People are predictable. Oh, she'll be looking at Lando's capes.
Oh, so she's checking out capes.
I'm sure people had issues with the cape closet, but it's too many capes.
It's just the
logic. We've never seen the Falcon under Lando's ownership.
Under Lando's purview, yeah, right.
And as far as I'm concerned, that cape room is a logical extension of what it would be like. Lawrence Kasdan loves the romantic scene in a tight space on the Millennium Falcon.
Space.
But she's a little more agreeable than welding Carrie Fisher.
Then yeah, right.
What do you think about this relationship in general?
You mean like, am I against it or for it?
What do you think about it? You don't have to go toxic fandom on me. Just tell me what you think. It might be just meh. I don't mind. Just interested.
I think more than anything, like all my first thoughts had more to do with I'm not sure the chemistry for the characters are there, but between the two actors.
Yes.
So that's why it kind of falls flat for me.
It's so stupid, and I wish it wasn't there. But he's concentrating so hard, Chewie, on that game of chess. So Beckett's like the devil on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
Equal, yeah. We hear a lot about droid rights in this movie.
Yeah.
More than any other Star Wars movie. It's a fascinating choice. I don't hate it, but it's definitely there. Like, there are moments in Return of the Jedi where I'm like, we need to be talking about how
Right.
we made droids feel pain.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas droid rights are some like equal rights for droids is something that the Star Wars movies make me think about. Sex between humanoids and robots is not something that I've ever thought about before.
No.
And I'm grateful that this movie brings my attention to the possibility of
To where
existing.
they want where they want your mind to go.
Yeah. I mean, it's no more or less pervy than stuff that happens in other Star Wars movies with the incest and the
Right.
killing your father and
Star Wars has some dark shit for sure.
killing all those kids. That's not perverse. But it's not exactly family entertainment, is it? Murdering mass murder of children. More people in helmets.
Mm-hmm.
And that's weird to me. I always assumed that Lando disguise he was wearing in Return of the Jedi was something from the palace, not from the Falcon.
Yeah, and that's the other thing is, I mean, he must have been on Tatooine before this movie.
We need that cut scene of like Lando like at the end of Empire Strikes Back as like we'll rendezvous on Tatooine. Oh, wait a minute! I got the perfect disguise.
I got the perfect thing. Yeah.
I got a tusk mask that'll do the trick. Plus, Chewie has to play prisoner a lot.
A lot.
You think he'd be more used to it when Luke suggests it in A New Hope. Because he seems outraged by the idea at that point. I'm like, clearly he knows the bit, he knows the routine. He has some nice twinkly moments sometimes. Things that were the dice. She gives him back the dice. You see,
Yeah,
it's an important object.
Clearly.
Or at least that's what the movie wants us to think. I'd love it if Harvey Korman was on those screens. This is the instructional spice mining video. Just glitching.
Hey-oh. More droids.
More second tier droids. I mean, you only have to get Anthony. Oh,
Arms off.
Chewie ripped someone's arms off like they always said he would, but we've never seen. With the droids, you only have to get Anthony Daniels on board. He's already in this movie.
Right.
Kenny Baker's long gone. You don't need him in the bucket anymore anyway. Another R2 unit.
Yep.
I don't understand. Uncle Owen was a slaveholder.
Right.
That's what that scene tells me.
Yep.
And Luke, by implication. This is definitely in the one joke too far category for me.
Yeah, I was gonna say
too lightweight and slapstick
mass
for my liking.
restraining bolt breakout.
Feels like something that you would something from the prequels, specifically the Phantom Menace. You know, it's like Jar Jar Binks running away from
Right.
bomb balls, a la Buster Keaton. The Gonk droid, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's good noises.
Yep.
Yeah, what are you doing, Chewie?
Yeah. What's going on?
No. No more pretending to be a prisoner for me. Not for 10 years, anyway. I don't know why we had this fake goodbye here.
Yeah, right.
I guess it goes back to they've got to have a reason to come back together.
Maybe.
But
how about just go save your homies and then meet me here?
And I've never seen a Wookiee that looks like that. Looks like the 2001 ape,
right?
That he's hanging out with. That doesn't look like a Wookiee to me. Maybe they're like Klingons. There's a lot of different kinds of Wookiees that
exactly
change depending on what props they have in the cupboard.
You know what's occurring to me now too?
What's that?
This movie is 400 times better than all our other watch-alongs.
Oh, good.
I mean, just flat out, this is a better made movie.
And you're not just talking about production values either.
No.
Good. Yeah, because otherwise you would say Batman versus Superman, but sorry, Batman v Superman. Fuck you, Zack Snyder. Not taking 4 hours of my time. No, thank you. Already got 6.
He got me.
I did get you. That's fine. But you're like, you're like a computer. You're like a database. The Calrissian Chronicles. Calrissian Chronicles.
It's great.
I guess that's what the spin-off's going to be.
Their version of a blog.
I like that, though. That's the first moment in a Star Wars movie where I've understood how their holograms work.
Mm-hmm.
Because you've got to have a weird refraction system that allows you to look at yourself
right
as you're being filmed. Not unlike Zoom. And Chewie's back. Get him, Short Round. The music there was very Temple of Doom.
Yeah. Well, and it's like... also...
I suppose these are slaves who are mining. It's the same thing, really.
Yeah.
I have a feeling John Powell is adapting all of John Williams' music.
Man,
not just
that really does look like the ape from 2001.
The head pat! He says, I'm a friend of Chewie's, and he pats him on the head. Like he's Chewie's new girl. It's great. That moment makes it clear to me that Han is the dog in the relationship.
Right.
I like how Lando's use of a blaster is very disco.
Right.
The catching the blaster. Now I just think that's cool.
I'm with you.
He catches the blaster in midair and then he does it at the Harrison Ford pointing angle.
Right.
The angry pointing angle. That's the moment for me. It's like when he becomes legitimate as Han Solo.
I'm enjoying his performance way more on this watching. And I was probably one of those people I was describing, just went in ready to hate.
Me too.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not ready to hate, but certainly not interested enough to see it at the theater.
Right.
You probably went to the theater to see it as well.
Oh, of course.
I mean, you saw Dirty Dancing have had a nice in the theater, so that's meaningless, but
but it shows a definite glimpse into the psychosis.
It shows you're a better person than I am, for sure. Did you see them put the coaxium under the floors?
Yeah.
In the Falcon?
Oh, yeah.
This is the problem with prequels. It's like the Last Crusade thing of everything important that we've seen subsequently has to happen in this really condensed period of time.
Right.
Like, Indiana Jones has to get all his distinguishing features in 2 minutes of real time. It just doesn't make any sense. Aww.
Gets his hat, gets his whip, gets his scar.
Do you think Chewie said, "See you at the monolith"?
Try to make it by for Earth Day.
Life Day.
Life Day, rather.
Earth Day. Tell Lumpy not to.
You want to know what's funny? Is I almost said Love Day. Remember Love Day from The Simpsons?
Of course I do. Of course I do.
Happy Love Day, everybody.
That's the Steve Martin episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
That image of Homer crushing the singing bears into a trash can still haunts me to this day. I love you.
But I think one of my personal favorite moments of that is when the garbage truck guys come back. Beep, 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 beep. Didn't you learn anything from Love Day? That was yesterday, moron. That's fucking great.
Yeah. Arguably more effective than all the nonsense with C-3PO and Rise of Skywalker, I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Alan Tudyk stuff in Rogue One is very good.
Yeah.
He's my favorite of all the Star Wars droids.
Absolutely.
Poor Chewie. At least they rectify this soon that like she can't fucking fly. Chewie's like, I'll just sit at the back of the bus. Don't worry about me. I wouldn't put it past this movie to be implying that because Lando has a sling on, that's how he knows how to do it to Luke when he
right.
loses his... He's in a sling, right? Or am I wrong about that? Or no, he's just got it tucked in.
Yeah, I think, I was going to say.
Never mind. Have we heard the... I know we've heard a lot of this music in all of the movies, but have we heard the bam, 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 bam since New Hope?
No, it's...
Because
I couldn't say.
Because if you rewatch the original Star Wars, I hate calling it New Hope, but it's hard to know for people to know what you're talking about. Like every time you see the Death Star, it goes bah, 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 bah!
Yeah, right.
For some reason, that didn't make it into Return of the Jedi.
This guy's got gumption, I tell you.
I'll say I think it's a little bit of a shame that he ends up flying the Falcon by accident.
Yeah.
I know he's a good pilot, but it reminded me a little too much of Jake Lloyd in Phantom Menace.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he's not doing everything by accident by any means. But Woody Harrelson's like, yeah, this shouldn't work. Any of this stuff.
Exactly. Why would anybody have built this like this?
Like a Gingason's pelt. What a great line. It's funny that they make fun of all the sci-fi gobbledygook that comes up in Star Wars.
Right.
But As soon as that happened, I thought, I bet somebody's written a comic about Gingerson's pelt and what that means. It's a sad reality of modern day Star Wars.
Yeah.
You say something in a movie, someone's going to write a comic about it.
We
Chewie's
definitely
not.
do.
I'm Rosa Parksing this shit.
Yeah, right.
I'm fucking driving the bus. He's already 200 years old, basically.
Yeah.
So, wow. So he could have potentially known Yoda for like 100 years.
Yeah.
That makes it seem a little less tenuous that they know
That's
each
my
other.
cape.
Because Yoda's what, like 900? He's
800.
200. They could have they could have lived together for like 100 years.
That was good sound there. Let's shout out to the Sounds in Cinema podcast. I'll have to ask Tony Parham and D-Rock what they think of that.
Thrilling to me, this. It scenes like this make me really lament not having gone to the movie theater.
What's that?
Scenes like this make me lament not going to the movie theater to see this. Because I think it would have been spectacular. I think Chewie was speaking in sand person there.
Where's that?
We have her soul.
Right.
And we're going to imprison it forever.
Inside of the Falcon.
Now, do you think this is why C-3PO can't understand the Falcon?
Interesting.
I assume that's what the reference
That's
was.
got to be it, right?
Says that it has a peculiar dialect.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yeah, you should understand it. You're English too. I laughed so hard I pulled out my headphones. Woody Harrelson. So good.
I just love him.
I mean,
Hey-oh.
Oh. I'd like to be in deepest space with an octopus with too many eyes. Yeah, I don't need the space octopus with too many eyes.
This is where they kind of started to lose me.
It's the same in Force Awakens. When tentacles come into that movie, it loses credibility too. I guess there are tentacle monsters in the original trilogy too.
Yeah, I mean, trash compactor monster.
Trash compactor. Sarlacc has tentacles.
Yeah. Or at least lengthy tongues.
Yow! It's my impression of Billy D. Williams in the Sarlacc.
I knew.
Yow! I'm surprised that Donald Glover doesn't have a yow moment in this.
Right.
They're the monsters that enslave humans in the Matrix. I'm sort of generally against discussions of anything vaguely scientific in Star Wars.
You prefer just stay in Star Trek?
Yeah, exactly. I think Star Wars is strongest when they're just like, here's the thing, here's how you do the thing,
Right.
and just stops. Because we shouldn't be hearing lasers in space if you want to just like,
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to know how spaceships are fueled. I think he'd have taken off his coat by now. You think it's
Yeah,
cold
right.
on the Falcon?
It is outer space.
Fair point.
See, now I'm wondering if this sea monster was like, why did I decide to live here?
In Le Mans racetrack.
Right.
What's it called? The Mon?
The mall?
Hmm. If don't like that. Don't like that CGI of the
Right.
of the coaxium. It's the first time I've noticed bad CGI in this movie. It's kind of weird. Even the possibility of someone cursing in a Star Wars movie is weird.
I know, right?
A little too much. I say that a movie that has mass murder, incest, but saying shit pushes the boat out too much.
Just a bit too far.
Fucking genocide, you know,
Mm-hmm.
3 times a movie. Well, I'm not quite sure what the threat was there, but I'm glad they've overcome it. Where would they have gone, do you think, if they passed through that hole?
Well, based on The Last Jedi, they'd have just gone through it
Into like
because they go through
into
a
our
ship in that
universe?
one.
It would be like Masters of the canon Masters of the Universe movie. Would they just appear on Earth
Masters of the Universe.
until we could create a tune on a weird thing? Oh, he likes his montage, doesn't he, Ron Howard?
Oh, yeah. Fan.
I like that the Castle Run's still a little bit of bullshit.
Yeah.
They keep that air of bullshit about it. It's great. Potentially, I don't like the idea of calling back "I love you, I know" in such a trivial way, but I
Yeah.
love this exchange. I just love that they love irritating each other. That's exactly how I imagine their friendship to be.
Right.
Does he give him the finger there?
No, I think it's the pointer
He
finger.
gives him the Harrison Ford point.
Yeah.
There should be a scene where he's like, "That's good. I
Yeah,
should do
right.
that.
I'm gonna use
I should
that.
do that in every movie." You'll find this man. You'll find this man.
He took everything from me.
Uh, always end up talking about The Fugitive. It just irks me so much that The Fugitive isn't a sequel. Prostitute. She's a prostitute. Am I wrong in thinking that that's what's going on here?
Oh no.
Okay.
I almost substituted some dialogue that said, "I'm not with him. I just let his penis in my vagina. Because if I don't, he'll kill me."
I mean, it verges on trivialization of, sex slavery, but
Oh yeah.
it's kind of good that there's a double standard. Like, they come from the same background, but because she's a woman, she has to do that to survive, and all he really has to do is, like, be an outlaw.
Mm-hmm.
That scene's a little on the nose, but that is the key character dynamic for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's like he's either, he's on the spectrum between good guy and outlaw,
Yeah.
just as Chewie's on the spectrum between scared and hungry dog and murderous beast. And that's what we love about them both.
Right.
I was wrong. That would have been the time to do a Cheers reference. Or
Son of a bitch.
even if that was Ted Danson behind the bar, like with a fake beard and hair, that would have been fine.
More than fine.
Don't shoot first, Han. Here's my theory. Han Solo is Scrappy Doo in this team.
Oops.
I love that he flies away. Speaking of 80s movies, Crimson Dawn sounds like the ultimate, like, 80s movie.
What's that?
Crimson Dawn sounds like the ultimate
Yeah.
80s movie.
Sounds like who Christian Slater wants to take down and pump up the volume.
Wow. I'm as confused as you, Chewie.
Chewie.
Don't look to me. Emilia Clarke's like, is that my outfit from Game of Thrones she's wearing? You know nothing, Jon Snow. This is mushy for me.
Yeah.
Because they want you to think this is the beginnings of the rebellion, but it's none of this has anything to do with the Empire. It's all about fighting gangsters. Well, fighting Darth Maul.
Boom.
Warwick Davis!
Yeah.
So they sort of become the rebellion, just fighting these gangsters. It
I guess.
doesn't work for me. I wish they hadn't said the thing about rebellion later. Take your coat off, Beckett. It's probably hot there, right?
Just relax.
You can also imagine how I feel about the double and triple crossing.
Right? Yeah,
stuff.
of course.
Except,
Not a fan.
Except the only way I would excuse it is in a heist movie. I think it belongs there and nowhere else.
Okay, good.
Because it's built into the format. I guess that's what they were going for in Die Hard with a Vengeance too, but
It didn't fall that way for you.
well, it just wasn't what I wanted the movie to be.
Gotcha.
Another much maligned franchise entry. Everything. Everyone goes to Tatooine. Fucking hell. Do you remember hearing this in the movie theater and thinking we're going to see Jabba before the end of the movie?
No.
Interesting. I was certain we were going to see Jabba.
Really?
I thought Crimson Dawn was Jabba.
Oh.
Not Darth Maul with spider legs. At this point, I didn't even know Darth Maul survived that fall.
Right, yeah.
You have to have seen Clone Wars, is it, to find all that out?
I think it's Clone Wars.
And you know how I feel about watching other things to find find out information in a movie.
Right.
That may have been a big part of people's disappointment. You substitute like that was not the gangster cameo we wanted.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to do Jabba.
Boom. She's right. That's what Chewie said. He's right,
Included, did he say boom as well?
Yeah.
When I saw Paul Bettany in this outfit, I remember thinking, I wish he played David Bowie in a biopic. So disingenuous. I love him. See, that's the other part of the fish that Han ate.
So much so that it's hard to believe I let you go with him.
Well, it pays off. because she's playing him.
Yeah.
So she's bred emotional attachment so that she can get away with literally get away with murder, his murder.
Right.
And I buy that. You know what this whole scene reminds me of, and it's a pretty deep cut.
Go.
David Mamet's Heist. You ever seen that?
Yeah.
Of course you have. What the fuck are you even asking? You saw that at the theater with Gene Hackman, no doubt.
I
did. Like Gene Hackman was sat next to you, I'm sure.
Well, not that far, but yeah, I really like that one.
I like that one too, but this whole real fake, real.
You know who's great in that? Danny DeVito.
That's one of my favorite lines in any movie. Was of course it's money. That's why they call it money.
Money.
And Hackman too. Fuck, that's a great Delroy Lindo.
Yeah.
Because the coaxium he's holding is real, but Han wants him to think it's fake.
Mm-hmm.
And he thinks it's fake, which is, yeah, that's what happens in Heist with the gold.
Well, they leave it there to go get it later.
But then they think they've been, he thinks he's been double crossed, but he's actually double crossed them.
Yeah, there's.
Because he builds it into his boat.
No, well, he doesn't build it into the boat.
Yeah, he scratches it away and it's gold.
No.
Okay.
He makes them think it's built into the boat.
I'm going to call up David Mamet and ask him. Dave. Yeah, no, I don't want to hear about Israel. Okay. Yeah, I understand. Yeah. It's leftist propaganda. I get it. What happens in Heist? Oh, I'm sorry I asked now. That made no sense.
I was curious to see how long you could make that bit go.
I'm no Bob Newhart. That's for sure. So that red-headed alien with the Irish eyes is called Eamon. Why the fuck do we have to have so much human racial profiling in Star Wars movies? You could literally make them look like anything. And yet we get the Trade Federation and Eamon the red-headed alien. Here's a question for you. Do you think Darth Maul makes all his Crimson Dawn members wear those scars, or is that a genetic thing?
Yeah, I don't. That's.
By the way, if no one's seen this movie, Crimson Dawn is Darth Maul with spider legs. It's empty, I tell you. There's no gold in the pot. It's a weird reveal. I always think that's a weird reveal of that. Like, that's the subterfuge that you don't need to do.
Right.
It could have been like anyone but the leader. And they don't even know who that is. But Woody Harrelson's like, True Detective wasn't even this complicated. To be fair, this is how all 1930s gangster movies end.
Right.
With like people taking the gun and then killing someone. I'll make a deal with you. No, I'll make a deal with you, see? Yeah, you shoot that skull. It's been annoying me for the entire movie. Fucking hate that. It's a crystal skull.
I know.
I just made the connection. That's Ron Howard's review of the most recent Indiana Jones movie done in film. It's his video essay.
Uh-oh.
It's a saber knife. 2 saber knives. Maybe this is where the penny should have dropped about Darth Maul.
Mm-hmm.
Except I didn't know he was still alive. Because I haven't watched Clone Wars. What a weird situation to be in. Have you seen WandaVision yet?
No, not yet.
My
You've watched
God,
it though, right?
Paul Bettany reasserts his like status as one of the best British actors of the last 10-20 years in that series.
That's good.
Which I think he exhibits here, but I remember looking at his IMDb and thinking like he starts with Gangster Number One, which is one of the best performances I've ever seen in movies. Any movie. But there's precious little after that.
Yeah.
Certainly not Wimbledon.
I was just gonna say.
But he is incredible, and I think in this movie he shows it, and then in WandaVision everyone realized, oh yeah, Paul Bettany. I like how they don't feel like they have to make Han Solo eloquent sometimes.
Right.
Everyone in Star Wars movies is far too eloquent for their own good. Except Han Solo.
Right.
There you go. It's her idea.
You have it. Yep.
So she's the angel. I'm trying to figure out who the angel is on his shoulder.
Yeah, right.
It's a combination of her and the wildling girl. That set is amazing. I really want to live on that barge. I wouldn't leave that barge if I was Han Solo.
Well, and I still want some of those bar glasses.
And the caviar looked really good as well.
Mm-hmm.
It was like an egg in it, like a fried egg.
She's taking over business. Yeah,
you don't see much yummy food in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Like that looked like yummy, Yoda's mud soup. It's all I can think of.
Yeah, exactly.
And we know from Mark Hamill's reaction how that tastes.
But I was all about that huge egg yolk.
Definitely. Let's talk to Jabba. Oh, that doesn't look like Jabba. Well, that sounds plausible. Get on with your work.
Off you go.
Ray Parks has got a good voice. They didn't let him use his own voice.
I was gonna say, but they didn't let him use it.
No. Well, they were basically they were hiring a martial artist, basically.
Yeah.
And then they got Peter Serafinovich to do the voice. But he's vocally very good. In Obi-Wan. They've got to pick that up, right? In the Obi-Wan series.
Let's hope.
I'm all for, they didn't use Darth Maul enough. I mean,
that was one of the biggest things that pissed me off.
Yeah. I mean, there's no fucking way he survived that, but then I don't know how the Emperor survived.
But what that series needed was you needed, those 3 movies, you needed somebody to hate that you did like Darth Vader for 3 movies until you stopped hating him.
And while I love Christopher Lee, the idea of a 90-year-old apprentice is strange.
Yeah.
I think what Star Wars has told us is that you can always come back from a fall. Shoot first. That's what Chewie just said.
Boom.
It's interesting, like the Disney sequel, because I guess it was in the contract that you couldn't touch the special editions, but they've found their own ways to say that Han shot Greedo first,
right?
Like this
as
scene
it should be.
This scene, and also in Force Awakens where Han Solo feeds someone to a monster. I'm like, that's the Han that shot first. None of this special edition self-defense nonsense.
Don't tell me he didn't shoot first.
But I guess you can't touch the special editions, right? Must be.
Well, what's even worse is you can't get a Blu-ray of the original versions or anything, It all is special edition now.
Yep. Particularly, I mean, Empire's fine. Star Wars is bad but fine. When you get to Return of the Jedi, it's like watching a different movie. It's really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Almost everything that's good about that movie has been taken out by George Lucas. Lapti Nick, for fuck's sake. Replaced by Jedi rocks.
Right. Hand on shoulder.
You're a good dog. Good boy. Oh. Yep, say nothing. Don't need to say anything. I mean, they can't talk, but that's not the point. Chewie's still carrying those bags. Isn't it clear now who's in charge in this relationship?
Right. This movie should be more liked.
I agree.
This movie shouldn't catch as much shit as it does.
No. What's come out since, both good and bad, has only added to this movie's legacy, I think.
Yeah.
Like the Mandalorians doubled down on stuff, and Rise of Skywalker's shown that there's worse things than this.
Right. Not my style.
I don't buy it. Of course, I haven't seen Star Wars Rebels or whatever the fuck, so I don't know. I think they thought people would be happier to see Darth Maul again than they were.
Mm-hmm.
I really do. I am, but A lot of people aren't.
Mm.
This is such a great button.
It really is.
I love that they chose to do it as a button.
And great bait and switch.
Yeah. But it's an example. So that's why they greet each other that way.
Another great switchy switch.
That's why they greet each other that way, to see if one of them is carrying a feeder.
Right.
And it's another moment where, like, so much of the prequels are things I wanted to know about, and then I didn't like it when I found out. Whereas this is different from how I thought it went down, but it's great.
Mm-hmm.
Like when he says fair and square, he means fair and square because we both know you're cheating.
Yeah.
But that totally makes sense in their world.
In their world.
It's also how Casino Royale goes down.
Mm-hmm.
I understand from their reaction that that is a very good hand.
Yes.
This ending is going to annoy you. It annoys me, so it's going to annoy you.
Ugh.
Yeah, that was the wrong image to end on.
Oh, yeah.
Them flying away into hyperspace would have been perfect, I think.
Would have been great.
It's also it's interesting, like, because Rogue One ends where New Hope starts, or executive producers. They got shafted. And this kind of does too, even though there's a lot that happens in between, because they're off to Tatooine to work for Jabba. They could conceivably just do that one job, and that's what he's paying off.
Mm-hmm.
So we get the sense we're not really missing anything.
Yeah.
Which makes it harder to like say that there should be a sequel to this.
Well, and you think?
Did tell you what I would have liked.
What's that?
I tell you what I would have liked.
What's that?
This is controversial. I would have liked them to have used that de-aging technology to like flash forward, like when they come out of hyperspace, they're Han Solo and Chewie at the beginning of New Hope, and then the movie ends.
Mm.
Maybe even like they come out of hyperspace again and they're Force Awakens Chewie and Han. Oh no, we want to watch the credits.
Hey.
That's part of it. Don't tell us not to watch the credits, Disney Plus. There's a good credit in here.
Well, I knew you would have something.
Credit check. Boop,
locked boop. And loaded for a credit check.
Yeah. Yeah, the fairy dice was the wrong call. It it's a little bit of a TV movie move. It's like, you know, some of the less good Ron Howard stuff there. I think it's like, this is what the, you know, he's like, in his head, it's like, this is what the movie's about.
Right, exactly. And that, I
Yeah.
think that's my issue is
Yeah.
is
It's not.
between The Last Jedi and this, they make it seem like it's absolutely the most important thing in the movie,
I wonder
and it
whether that
just
was it.
isn't.
I wonder whether that was a note though, like bring back the dice for the ending for the
Mhm.
stupid people. I don't know. You spend months and years of your life creating top of the line effects, and you get a
Right.
tiny name on a giant screen.
And this movie is good looking.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's the reason I have issues with underlighting so much of it. Is I feel like people's work is not being given the showcase it should, and only some of it contributes to the atmosphere,
yeah.
and not all of it. Not all of the underlighting does.
But I also, I mean, I get what you're saying, but I also, you know, we're talking earlier about Godfather and Godfather 2, and like the Godfather, I love that dark lighting in
Well,
that
yeah,
movie.
but it's not like, and there's
And I
not an
get that they're
expensive
different,
puppets there.
but just in general, I think movies are too concerned about a blast of floodlights on everybody's face.
Fair enough. I think the sweet spot is definitely the mountain train heist.
Mm-hmm. But I can go the other way because it also bothers me in television, you know, whatever, Clarice, even the X-Files going back, all these movies where they're set in the FBI and everybody has a soft light desk lamp and the room's dark except for all these separate great looking lights at every desk, which is not how it works, you know.
Right.
It's I get that you don't want to use fluorescence, but that's what ER did because that's what they would work under.
Yeah.
Pretty good show,
Yeah. Yeah.
at least for a long while.
Yeah. It's sort of. I think the jump the shark moment was uh, the arm getting cut off. I like to think
Right.
everything. What was the name of the doctor? Played
I
by
won't remember.
Paul McCrane. Anyway,
Yeah.
I've remembered Paul McCrane. That's good enough.
That's that's the most we can ask.
When Paul McCrane's arm gets cut off by the helicopter,
Yeah.
I like to think everything after that is a dream. There's nothing good beyond there.
Dallas style.
Yeah. I don't now because the screen is now so small on my laptop. I don't know if I'm going to see the credit that I want to talk about, so I'm just going to mention it.
All right.
The credits have a credit for the company that did the end credits.
Right.
I mean, that's a movie eating its own tail, right?
That's not uncommon though.
Really?
That's not an uncommon credit. Yeah.
But then there should be a credit for.
You see it for beginning credits too. I've seen movies with beginning credits by and end credits by.
That's got to be the point at which we go. There's too many credits, right?
I want to say I remember it for War of the Roses for their beginning credits, and I really like the beginning credits because it's all over white, and it turns out to be his handkerchief.
You're not going to hear me speak ill of War of the Roses.
All right.
So I think we're fine to talk about the movie.
Yeah, right.
Don't think we're not going to get Darth Vader breathing or anything like that. I don't think. What do you think? Sounds like you enjoyed it.
Yeah, this is and I didn't hate it.
And our reluctance about that feeling.
No, I didn't hate it the first time I saw it either. I thought, okay, that was fun. But I think I'm on your side. I think within the canon of all Star Wars films, if you had asked me before the movie started, I would have said it doesn't even come close to Rogue One, but I think it is
Ooh.
close to Rogue One.
Ooh. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting to me when I hear people talk about this movie. They find it as hard to say what they don't like about the movie as well as what they like about the movie,
Mm-hmm.
and that's a sign to me that of a kind of misunderstood movie.
Yeah. I'll
Because you
tell
get
you, I think this movie's paced really well too. Like you said, it has lots of set pieces,
yeah
but all in all, the set pieces are good. And it's funny because I had asked you a question early on in the movie about what you thought about the Kessel Run,
yeah
and that was because I didn't remember liking the Kessel Run too much.
mm-hmm.
But I'm wrong about that. It's just there's that middle section with the octopus, and that's the part that doesn't work. But everything
Yeah,
before it and the escape right at the end is great.
one octopus too far.
Yeah.
The Star Wars story. No, I completely, yeah, I agree with that, and yeah, I suppose it's about what you leave people with as well. Like,
But the characters are interesting in this
yeah,
movie. It looks good. It's shot well. I mean, yeah, this is a good movie.
great. I'm really glad to hear you say that. Um, and one of the other things I just wanted to mention is what I prefer. Like, it scratches an itch for original trilogy Star Wars feeling,
Yeah.
but for me, it's more successful than what The Force Awakens does, which is like a beat by beat remake of New Hope. Like,
Right. And I've heard that before, and nobody that says it is wrong, but it's also, it doesn't bother me. I really like The Force Awakens.
okay, good.
I always did. Um,
I
I
liked
got
it when I first saw it. I feel like the opposite of Solo for me.
it's waned.
Yeah, I mean, it's partly J.J. Abrams' fault because his magic box style of storytelling
Yeah.
means, right, if I'm going to enjoy this, everything has to pay off eventually, or I'm going to hate it. So if it doesn't pay off, that it's like retroactively, it eats into.
But you don't mean within the movie itself. You mean because of the next two movies, right?
Well, yeah, but there's so anyway. We're not talking about Force Awakens, but I I'll just say, like, because of the way that J.J. Abrams writes and structures,
Right.
uh, he has a Schrodinger's box where
Okay.
you're not sure if you've enjoyed it or not. It'll all depend on where it goes, and there's always a dead cat in there. Basically, is what I'm saying. Because of the next two movies,
Yeah.
and just feel like it's a very superficial movie.
Yes.
At the time, I and clearly everyone else needed it,
Yeah.
but I don't need it now, especially when there's movies like Solo in the World, which scratch that same itch, but in a way I find more interesting and more like
Satisfying.
more standalone satisfying.
Yeah.
Um, which is kind of interesting, and it's like, so we talked about how people would just wanted to hate this movie. As a lot of people who really like Lord and Miller, and I do too, uh, who thought they were getting their movie, and obviously, you know,
Didn't.
and with Gareth Edwards with Rogue One, Maverick visionary director. Ron Howard isn't that.
No.
He's a workman-like director. Um, but I like, at whatever stage, whether it was him or Kasdan or whatever, they created a movie that scratched the itch for me for original trilogy Star Wars, but also just 70s movies, like it felt like, in the same way Zodiac kind of like feels like a
Yeah.
70s movie out of time. I feel like this is a 70s movie out of time,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what I really.
I don't quite go to the 70s as much as you do, but but I do understand what it is you're saying.
Yeah.
Um, there's a bit more of a polish on this movie than a 1970s movie, but maybe structurally and the feeling of it as opposed to the look of it.
Well, obviously, I think some of the underlighting is part of that.
Yeah.
That look, and it's like, I guess, yeah, just I suppose just in terms of like genre film or genre TV, really, like it's weird because depending on what kind of fan you are of Star Wars dictates what you want to get out of the next movie
Mm-hmm.
that they release. So if you're knee deep in the mythology of it, this isn't going to satisfy you. But if you like Star Wars because it was a space western,
Yeah, right.
you're probably going to like this because you probably like heist movies too.
Because this is more of that.
Yeah, you're probably like The French Connection or something, or The Driver or those kinds of movies, which this movie certainly leans on. So yeah, I mean, I see the flaws. For some reason, I don't think they compromise the movie as much as they do other non-original trilogy Star Wars movies, and I don't think that it's these movies' problems. It's about when it was released, the problems with prequels in general, and the problems that Star Wars storytelling brings up.
Yeah.
And I actually think there are moments in these movies where they try and account for things in the Star Wars universe that no one's ever bothered to account for before.
Mm-hmm.
Not altogether successfully, but at least there.
But there's a yeoman's effort.
Yeah, like the droids' rights thing. I mean, it's like could be seen as an irrelevance, but also, I mean, in Return of the Jedi, when they're burning the feet of that droid,
he's screaming in pain,
and he's screaming in pain.
But also, that's it's all for just comedic sake too, which is interesting because it's supposed to be a laugh.
Yeah, and here it's like well, I mean, and the L3 Phoebe Waller-Bridge, like purposefully, there's a line that recontextualizes that scene from New Hope where I say we don't serve their kind here.
Mm-hmm.
And I suppose that's it's a segregation comment, I guess, but
yeah.
She says it back. She says they don't serve our kind here. We should leave. We shouldn't be in a place like if you're in favor of droid rights, you shouldn't be here. So I like that. I like that there's that kind of follow up. But
sure.
a lot of it doesn't pay off. A lot of it is just that thing that people hate about the Disney sequels, which is retconning things into continuity that never needed to be there. And they do that a lot.
Like Dice.
Like the Dice. I mean, there's numerous other examples as well.
Sure.
Even the idea that Han Solo talks his way out of a crisis. I think that's a bit of a Disney sequel invention. There's not much evidence of that in the original trilogy. I think this movie was burdened with a lot of problems from other movies.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know what level that's happening, but it's like, oh, we've got to account for this. We've got to make this important when it comes up again. We've got to make it seem like this was the intention all along.
Yeah.
So the movie seems to be burdened with that, but in other respects, I'm learning something interesting and new when I hear about some of the stuff that comes up.
Well, and
never really pinning down in that horrible kind of origin story way.
So that's what I was going to ask you, because you seem to be bothered by the explanation for things we already know.
No,
is that fair, or
it's all subjective because it's about well, I'm not like the headcanon person. Like when something deviates from my headcanon, I don't immediately dismiss it. Some people do, and that's why you get Not My Star Wars.
Yeah.
but I at least want it to, I have to go through a process of that's not what I thought it was. Is it interesting enough in its own right
Yeah. Uh-huh.
to like? Is it a so saying we knew about the Clone Wars for years and years and years, and then when we saw the Clone Wars, and we're like, oh, okay.
Right.
But here, with most of it, like the Kessel Run and the Fair and Square, and it's like, yeah, sure, it's a bit Moe's. That's the origin of that one. But
Uh-huh.
I'm also like, oh, interesting. Like it doesn't fight anything that's
Yeah.
like it doesn't fight logic in the same way that the prequel stuff does. Like it
I'm
seems like,
always okay with it, so long as it, comes out fun or
yeah,
interesting and isn't
I
too big
agree.
a giant wink.
Well, there's
Like,
some pretty big winks in here.
yeah, you're right, but I don't know. Tonally, there's a difference between and do you get it?
Yeah.
You know,
Well, that's why I
and
like. That's why a lot of people criticize the naming of where Han Solo gets his name. Aside
mhm,
from the Godfather reference, I'm
right,
obviously gonna like it. Um, it's like, oh, I never. It's more like, oh, I never. Instead of I never needed an answer to that, I go, I never thought about that. I wonder if everyone gives themselves their own names in the
mhm.
Star Wars universe. And then at the end of Rise of Skywalker, that happens, and I'm like, okay, so they do. It's like it's not a big deal, you know. They can do it as flimsily as they do in Rise of Skywalker. He can do it here in a way that's meaningful, and says something about immigration and all that sort of
Yeah,
stuff.
right, right.
So I don't have a problem with it. It's just it's all subjective to, does this really disturb anything too big that the whole universe collapses?
Collapses, right.
And that's what people thought about, Grumpy Hermit Luke. But I'm like, do you remember what Obi-Wan was like? What Yoda was like?
Mhm.
Why do you expect him to be anything other than a failure? like his two mentors are
Right.
big hermit failures. So
Yeah.
uh but it's a very interesting one. I mean, at the very least, it deserves a rewatch, and hopefully, we've put
Well,
it in
and
some kind of context that makes you want to watch it again, and doesn't make you afraid of it.
yeah, yeah. I mean, speaking to the Luke question, well, it's a different movie, but anyway, it never bothered me that much, the idea of where Luke was in his life at that time,
No,
even if Mark Hamill had a problem with it.
and that's been overstated too. I
I
think.
think so, but
I mean, he complains
because
about
I
pretty
also
much
think
everything
I
he
remember
does.
getting out of that movie and hearing, my brother and my brother's wife more especially saying he was terrible in this movie, and I thought, no, I think he's
The
actually
opposite.
quite good in this movie. Um,
It's like let Chewie be Chewie, let Mark Hamill be Mark Hamill. That's Mark
right.
Hamill.
But having said that, I also didn't like the movie, and Star Wars Monte Carlo has a lot to do with that.
Yeah,
Structurally,
I didn't like 50% of the movie.
yeah, structurally that movie's a mess. But anyway,
And again, like if I just come off the Last Jedi, if I wasn't sick of seeing Star Wars movies, which you've got to remember, which is how everyone's going
you'd have
into this
seen this in
movie.
the theater.
Yeah, I'd have seen this in the theater, and I'd have also gone, oh, Beckett's a better version of the Benicio del Toro character from Last
Right,
Jedi.
yeah.
Like his character makes total sense to me, and like they never and and didn't in Last Jedi. And there's so many instances, like everything that's wrong with Last Jedi is something that this movie does well, almost.
What I
Um,
feel, well, go ahead.
no, and so I just sort of think like we must have been really sick of Star Wars
Yeah,
movies,
right.
because
I mean, I'm not
I would be crying out for something this simple after The Last Jedi.
I'm too much of a homer. I'm first in line for this movie. I was like, yay, another one.
Oh, that's
Uh,
good.
I'm always ready.
Yeah,
Um,
but
but I see it and it's you know, you mentioned the 50% thing, and that's how I feel about The Force Awakens.
Oh, interesting.
There's so much in that movie that I really like, and then there's so much in that movie where I'm like, meh.
Is it R2D2 waking up from a unexplained sleep?
From a coma?
Yeah.
Droid coma. That's a band name.
Droid coma. So I mean, but again, it's about expectations, you know?
Yeah.
And I think the majority of people wanted
Apparently something different.
Well, like a Lord Miller remixing of Star Wars, I think, is what people were hoping for, because of, and you know, into the Lego movie and into the Spider-Verse. It's like that's what they do in their movies, and that's great, and it totally works, and it's great use of franchise cinema. But what you actually got here was a very old school traditional take on a Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And in 2018 we weren't ready for that. And
yeah, maybe not.
Unlike and I think the fact that Mandalorian came through TV and it's like one episode at a time,
and
it just won't people. It just won't. I wonder if Jon Favreau is just like, it's like everyone hates Solo, but loves this. It's the same.
But yeah, exactly. But it's weird.
It's the same thing.
I drew so much from it.
Yeah, it's even got like a, you know, it's even like with Boba Fett's kind of doing a. It's like doing a well, they're doing an actual Boba Fett series now.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess we've already had Boba Fett's backstory, unfortunately.
All right. Anything left for Solo, Tom?
You will never have a deeper sleep than curled up in a Wookiee's lap.
There you go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you have anything to add to the conversation, please let us know. Find us on Facebook, Instagram,
I
or
expect
Twitter.
There'll be a few comments.
Yeah, there might be.
I think you know, Star Wars fans, not particularly vocal, but there might be a few. Jesus Christ.
Go ahead
why do we do this to ourselves?
Gluttons for punishment. Oh, so send us a message, send us an email to everythingsequel@gmail.com. For Tom Stewart of Lonesome Whistle Productions, I am Michael Shantz. I'm from the How Dare You Awards. Say goodbye, Tom.
You and I freedom make by secret game of pretend.
Perfect. So long, everybody. Until next time.